And a warm welcome back. Memories of another Old Firm game. Actually, when was that? That was... I get it. It's just that they're just looking at various goals over the years gone by. That's an ad for tonight's game that's ongoing now between Celtic and Rangers. This is a very important game. If you remember earlier in the season, Rangers were well ahead. It looked like, I was actually interviewing guests on the programme 4 or 5 weeks into the season and saying, well, isn't it all over? And they said, oh, don't be stupid, it's early in the season. But they were 12, 15 points clear. And now tonight, as it stands, a game between the two, 20 games played halfway through the season, and Celtic are 1 point behind. Goal difference, they're 1 goal behind. And the two of them are so far ahead of their nearest rivals, Motherwell, my team in Scotland, who are 13 points off second place. Actually, excitingly for me, Motherwell could be in Europe. It looks that way. As far as the game goes tonight, the two teams playing each other, all we care about, it's half-time, it's 0-0 Celtic and Rangers. And just a mention of another game, and then we'll actually talk a little bit about the Celtic and Rangers rivalry. And that's a game at the bottom of the table between Hibs and Inverness Cali Thistle, and the score there is 1-1. They're both fighting to stay away from the drop zone. Dunfermline are in bottom place. Hibs need to win to pull themselves away from danger and catch up with Inverness. Only one team goes down from the Premier League. But during the ad break, William Comet, who's joining us tonight, an expert on Tottenham in particular, was saying that he fears the possibility of a punch-up between the managers of Rangers and Celtic. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, I'm not an expert on Scottish football, but quite recently, in a recent match, the two managers of Celtic and Rangers almost came to blows. I think Neil Lennon, who's the manager of Celtic, he used to play in Northern Ireland. He was the Northern Ireland star player. And he looked like he was going to pick a fight live in front of the cameras at the end of the match with Ali McCoist, the Rangers manager. There's a lot of history about Neil Lennon because Scottish fans will know much better than I do. There's a strong religious rivalry between the two teams. Celtic are primarily a Catholic team. Rangers are a Protestant team. Neil Lennon, who is the current Celtic manager, was forced to quit international football for Northern Ireland because of the sectarian prejudice and hatred. And a lot of that exists in the games between these two teams. So Lennon showed that he was very hot-headed in a recent encounter between the two teams. And it's a very, very touchy subject because it can spark all kinds of problems on and off the pitch.
Lennon's also been subjected to abuse by not just Rangers fans, but I mean, basically everywhere he goes in Scotland, he's subjected to abuse. You've seen him being escorted off numerous times with police all around him, death threats. I mean, it's been a very tough time for him. On the other hand, he is a controversial, outspoken character. In Israel, we talk about sometimes the need for the separation of religion and politics, but do you think maybe in Scotland it's time to separate religion and football? We've managed to do it in England.
I don't think that's the issue. I think football can only control football. It doesn't govern society. And I think the Scottish football authorities, I think UEFA, when they see managers getting involved in that kind of banter between each other, threatening behaviour, they've got to come down tough on it. I think if a player, behaves badly on the pitch, he gets banned, he gets fined, whatever. I think Neil Lennon possibly should have got, if he wasn't fined for that encounter, probably should have done.
Before we shift gears back to down south into England, let's just look at the fixtures. So tonight, as we said, Celtic are playing Rangers. It's clearly a two-horse race. But looking at the next fixtures, and I should say at this point that the reason we're focusing on Scotland and England tonight is because basically the rest of Europe, the Europe that we care about, is now on a 2 to 4 week winter break. And of course, when you talk about the African Cup of Nations, there's the advantage for the Frances and the Italys and the Spains and the Germanys that they are on a break, so it eases their fixture nightmare, whereas in England and Scotland the games go on and the teams suffer. And of course that's going to affect those teams in Europe as well afterwards where they're more rested.
Why doesn't England do so well at World Cups? Because our players are flogged to death.
Absolutely. So just to explain, on Monday, which is January the 2nd, will be the next group of games in the Scottish Premier League. Dunfermline, the bottom team, Well, they're going to be hosting Celtic, and you would imagine that's a 3 points away victory at East End Park. And a tougher game for Rangers, but presumably they're going to come through it okay. They're going to be playing against third place Motherwell. 2 great games on Monday, and of course we'll be talking about those and the weekend results from England when we meet you again next Wednesday. But I think we should now get back onto England. We were talking about Tottenham and transfers, and Harry Redknapp saying that he wants to bring in some fresh faces. He's going to have to do some selling to get the money. The Daily Mirror, the English newspaper, is reporting today that he's likely to sell Stephen Pienaar and Nico Kranjčar. Now, in the case of Pienaar, he's only been at the club for, a few months, and it's a shame because he's a damn good player.
Well, I don't really agree. I think Pienaar hasn't justified his place in the team. I don't know why that is, why he hasn't produced the form he had at Everton. When he joined Tottenham, they got him on the cheap in the sense that they didn't pay a big transfer fee. There was speculation that he'd go to Chelsea. And the irony of the modern media age is that when he decided to join Tottenham, I think he announced it on Twitter. That's how everyone found out.
Right.
I've not seen enough from Pienaar to think that he justifies carrying on. And I think one of the signings that could make a huge difference, and it's in the Daily Mail today, the British Daily Mail, is, and I think this could be a terrific signing for Tottenham, is they're considering a move for the Blackburn defender Chris Samba. I think if Blackburn harbour any intention of staying in the Premier League, that would probably be the nail in their coffin.
Absolutely.
But he'd be a fantastic signing for Tottenham.
Clearly, Tottenham looking for defenders. Another possibility that's being talked about is Gary Cahill, but Cahill's in talks with Chelsea.
Yeah, it's pretty likely that he will go to Chelsea, but I think that from a player's point of view, why would you want to go to Chelsea? Only because you're being paid more money. They're not higher in the league. They may not qualify for the Champions League. Maybe the lure of it's the cash.
Maybe we'll get on to transfers in a minute. But first, let's just have a look at Tottenham's fixtures. The next 6 games, with the exception of the game against City, should be, for anyone who has any pretension to be a title contender, should be pretty straightforward. You're starting with a trip to Swansea on Saturday, but then you've got home games against West Brom, Everton, Wolves and Wigan. They've all got to be winnable.
They're all winnable, but I think anyone who thinks that Tottenham's going to win the Premier League is dreaming, to be quite frank.
Now, this is from a Tottenham fan.
Yeah. Look, we've got 6 or 7 great players, and we've only got 6 or 7 great players. We haven't got 11. We haven't even got 22. If you look at the Manchester United squad, they've got 4 or 5 striker options. Berbatov's only just played his second game. He was the top goal scorer at Manchester United last year with over 20 goals. They bought him for £30 million. Ironically, I was beginning to think he might leave Manchester United in the January window, and there's speculation he might go to Germany. I think if he hadn't played this week, my money would have been on Tottenham trying to sign him on loan for the rest of the season, but obviously that's not going to happen now.
Yeah, it's definitely. But would you say, right as of now, Bale is your prime player to move forward?
Well, he's the player on form in the last 6 games, but he missed a lot of last season. He does look physically a lot stronger. I think one of the things I said in the game when we watched against Chelsea last week, he looks a lot stronger. He looks a lot fitter. He looks more resilient. But if my favourite player in the Tottenham team is Rafael van der Vaart. You give him the ball anywhere around the 18-yard box, there's a 50-50 chance it's going in the back of the net.
How much, guys, did we learn? I mean, Mike, you're a Chelsea fan, and William, you're a Tottenham fan. How much did we learn from that game last week, the 1-1 draw?
Well, going into it, I thought that we outpossessed them in much of the match, and we definitely had tons of opportunities. But getting a 1-1 result, Villas-Boas was actually quite happy with that. I think that was a losing mentality. I think we needed to get the 3 points. On the other hand, I think for the Spurs, I thought it was worse for them because they, at home, needed to really prove themselves to move forward to get higher in the table.
I think there are a few things we learned from that game, which maybe we already know, maybe we didn't. The first thing is Ledley King can't run. Okay, I watched him for about 20 minutes in the second half. He barely broke stride. The second thing is we need someone like Didier Drogba. We need a world-class striker, and we were talking about it in the game. If Chelsea were to get rid of him in the transfer window, I think they'd be absolutely nuts.
Foolish.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. I think he's a fantastic player.
And he's the best player we have as of now.
Yeah, and Mourinho signed him for a good reason, because he's a terrific player. He's great in the air. He's great on the ground. He can do anything. But what was exposed for me was two things. Not just only Tottenham's thin squad. Lennon wasn't playing. We had no one playing wide out on the right. We looked an unbalanced team because of it, which is why I think we should probably sign a right-sided player, maybe, attacking player. But also, for me, the biggest single problem with Tottenham at the moment, if you watch the first 10, 20 minutes of the second half, we couldn't keep the ball. And if you look at our midfield, we've got Parker, we've got Modric. Van der Vaart, I think, came off at half-time. I think that was a huge loss. We need another midfield player or an attacking player who can actually pass the ball forward.
Now you say you couldn't hold the ball. You played away last night at Norwich, 1-2-0. There was only 5-10 minutes in the game when Norwich looked threatening. You held the ball. I mean, I was looking at the percentages. There were 15-minute periods where you held the ball 80% possession and were holding it in the Norwich half. And the names of players that you just mentioned in midfield just dominated that game. I hear what you're saying about lack of depth. If you keep those 6-7 players uninjured, you've got to be a contender for certainly to get into the Champions League. I'd have thought for second or first place.
I think we'll be in the top four. I don't think we've got a chance of winning, but great if I'm wrong.
Yep.
I think the biggest change this week for me in the Tottenham team was the return of Sandro. He is such a clever player. He basically kills counterattacks by the other teams, and I think he is like an additional signing. And I think the other thing is we don't have at the moment a player available who's currently fit, playing and in form. He can score 20 goals a season. Maybe Jermaine Defoe can do it, but he's not doing it at the moment. And perhaps
Defoe's past it.
But I mean, when he does come back from this hamstring injury, do you think he's gonna move? Help them, lead them to what they need? I mean, to get another striker. I mean, he's proven himself in the past to be a exquisite player.
If he's fit and in form, he'll do something. He'll contribute. The big worry for me is, I mean, we watched the Chelsea-Tottenham game. I can't see Pavlyuchenko keeping hold of the ball for more than about 2 seconds at any point in the game. That is not what you expect of a 15 or whatever it is £1 million striker. But we're not going to get rid of him unless we find someone else. And that's the challenge for Tottenham at the moment.
Let's look at some of the other transfer news around, mainly in England, but beyond as well. We talked earlier with Mark was on the phone about Corinthians in Brazil. They've now got a new president by the name of Roberto Andrade, and he has said very publicly that he is back in the hunt for Carlos Tevez. Remember, Tevez at Manchester City came to City from United, played an absolutely inspirational season and a half at Manchester City, then became the bad boy, as you remember, allegedly refusing to warm up when he was on the bench, and Mancini went public within 5 minutes of the end of the game. This was in the Champions League earlier this season, and saying Carlos Tevez will not play for this club again. Since then, he's disappeared. He's been not showing up for training. He's been in hiding, as it were, back in South America. And now Corinthians say they're interested again, that they may be able to pump up the 40 million or so pounds needed, which is $60 million to buy him. But he's also wanted by AC Milan and Paris Saint-Germain. Now, Paris Saint-Germain are becoming the Manchester City of Europe this year because they've got new Arab owners. They're signing willy-nilly as much as they want. Milan, of course, is a much more serious option, and he's also in talks there. But again, I asked the two of you, given everything, would you want Tevez in your team?
Absolutely not. He's just going to break the team apart. I feel that Tevez has one desire, which is to go back home and play back in South America. He doesn't show the interest of being in England, playing in the Premier League. He's not focused on, listening to what his coach has to say, and it's time for him to go.
I think it all boils down to money. I think if Manchester City offered to pay 90% of his wages, he might come to Tottenham, just like Emmanuel Adebayor. And he's still a terrific player. He was one of the top strikers in the league last season. Tottenham need 20 goals a season, but Redknapp has said he thinks that probably he won't sign him. And the interesting thing about all these transfer dealings, if you look at Redknapp, he almost never says he was looking to sign until he signed them. Mm-hmm. And I think most people are completely bored of the Tevez story. Is he going to go here? Is he going to go there? The only reason we're talking about him is last season he scored 20 goals. Absolutely. And Manchester City could do with him right now.
Absolutely. He would be the difference because City have got that dip in form, bring him in. If Mark were here, of course, he'd be saying that all of this talk that we're going to be doing over the next few minutes about the transfers is simply being put around by the agents who are trying to boost the value of their own property. But that having been said, it becomes much more important now because we're in this, we're about to get into that window. Mm-hmm. Now, last year, it was the case that very, very few big deals happened in this window, and the suggestion is that's going to be the same again. But some of the talk, for example, and this is something, Mike, that you'd be concerned with, is Florent Malouda wanting to leave Chelsea. Would that be a loss to your team?
Yeah, I feel he would be a loss. I'm happy that Villas has been giving Malouda more time in the past couple games. Malouda's been one of the key members of Chelsea's winning of the double, and in the past few years, he was a major part. So for us to not be playing him, I don't really understand it. I think that there's tons of players that and tons of teams that would want to have him, and Chelsea would be foolish to get rid of him as well. I just don't think that he should be sitting on the bench. If you're not going to be playing him, then let him go. But it's a waste of his talent to just ride the bench.
William, what about Thierry Henry at your friendly neighbourhood rivals, Arsenal? Talk of him joining, Arsene Wenger saying, hey, everybody, hold on a minute. I'm not saying we're signing him. Is he needed?
Well, I support Tottenham. And Tottenham, we hate Arsenal. I think the interesting thing about Thierry Henry is we know that Thierry Henry, in his heyday 5 or 6 years ago, was probably one of the top 3, 4, 5 strikers in the world. He was a fantastic player for Arsenal. If ever you wanted to pick one of the top goals of the decade in England, there's that goal he scored against Manchester United, where he had his back to goal outside the penalty area, flicked it up, turned, swiveled, and looped it into the back of the net over Bartes. It's one of the goals of the decade. What does he have to gain by returning to Arsenal right now? He's 34 years of age. He's playing in America. He's earning a lot of money. There is speculation that he will join Arsenal in the transfer window in January. Wenger hasn't ruled it out. He said it's a possibility. He was asked about it again in the last couple of days. He's not commenting. I don't really see what's in it for Henry other than A, money, B, it's the off-season in America.
Both of those are very good reasons, and I'd have thought the first one speaks millions.
I think Arsenal need something. If Van Persie gets injured, their season's probably over. If Arteta gets injured, their season's over.
They're also about to lose Gervinho and Shamak to the African nations.
I think it makes a lot of sense to sign Henry if he's fit, he's in form, and he's been training with Arsenal for a while, the last few weeks, so they know what he's doing. It's very difficult to sign effective players in the window because if they're leaving another club, why are they leaving that club? And just going back to what you were saying about Chelsea, I think the problem that Malouda's got is he's competing in midfield with Mata, Ramirez and Morelos. And the midfield is not their weakness at the moment. They've got no cover for Drogba. They've got very little cover for the defender.
And defensively, we're getting old.
Yeah, the England captain, John Terry.
John Terry's been not been looking like John Terry.
Although he did have a game-saving against Tottenham when he cleared it off the line.
I thought he played great that game, to be fair.
He has been playing well, but it's the same old story where our center defense is getting beat because we're getting old and we're slow and
there's no cover.
Alex is going and all. That's the key problem we had last year, and it's again this year. We need youth in the back. I don't really think Boswinga is the answer either. I'm happy with Ivanovic. I think he's been stellar for them. But going back to Henry, the thing about him is he looks good right now in the States, but it's a slower game. It's easy to look good over there. It would be helpful for the MLS to have more players coming in the transfer window on loan to the UK and elsewhere, just to make the players stronger for when they come back. I know Donovan's looking, and they're saying possibly a few others, such as, was it Beckham possibly leaving?
Well,
but if he goes,
Beckham's on his way to Paris Saint-Germain,
Yeah.
supposedly. He's doing it for a very different reason.
Money.
But it's this idea that he's going to captain the Great Britain football team at the World Cup. I mean,
Is he
it's
getting a
load
little
of
old for
nonsense.
that?
Load of nonsense. But nobody cares about the Olympics soccer. Anyway, let's move on a little bit, because we're almost out of time. We've still got lots to get through. Let's look at some of the fixtures coming up. There is a huge game on Friday night. Again, because of the holiday season, everything's a little bit different. Liverpool against Newcastle, 6th and 7th. Now, if you remember at the start of the programme, Mark was writing off Newcastle. He said the fans won't like it. But you know what? Newcastle are only 3 points off the European pace right now, which isn't that far behind. Who's going to get this one, Liverpool or Newcastle? Who's going to take the game?
Personally, I'm going to say Newcastle's been dipping lately, so I think Liverpool is going to be having an advantage going into it.
They'll be, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be without Suarez.
They are without Suarez, and he got another ban for flipping the bird.
Yes, whatever that may mean. But yeah, for not being very nice in Fulham, towards Fulham fans. Sorry?
Are they playing at Anfield?
Yep. It's at Anfield. So what do you reckon? I think the home advantage always helps Liverpool.
I think the big factor for Liverpool is if players like Gerrard, I think Gerrard's just come back into fitness. If Gerrard's playing, I think if Bellamy's on his game, those two guys are capable. They're match-winning players. Newcastle on a little bit of a slump. They started the season really well. They put some really great results together. And guess what? As the season wears on, their squad weakness in depth is challenged.
I'm just going to make a very quick mention of the lower half of the table. And when I say the lower half of the table, I mean from 9th place down to 20th place. I think we're going to see exactly the same thing that we saw last season, where 2 weeks before the end of the season, there could be any of 7-8 teams going down. It's basically Stoke City in 8th place and up, looking at Europe, and everybody else looking at relegation. And there is no middle ground in English football.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned Stoke, because I really enjoy what they're doing at the moment. I think teams, any of Blackburn, Bolton, Wigan, Wolves, QPR could easily go down. I think Sunderland are unlikely to go down. They've recently signed Martin O'Neill as a manager. He's won 2 games out of the last 3. I think Swansea are pretty strong at home. I think Fulham are, they play good football. Aston Villa have got some money. Norwich lost last night to Tottenham, but I think they're going to do okay. I think it's probably any 3 out of the bottom 5 or 6 that are going to go down. Okay, so that's the bottom. As we get towards the end of the season, we'll put a lot more focus on the bottom. But right now, it is exciting at the top. So let's have a quick look through the games in chronological order. So we've talked Liverpool and Newcastle. Manchester. I'll go for home win there.
Right, okay, yeah, I'd go for that. This is like the pools panel.
Exactly.
Manchester United, Blackburn. It's got to be United, hasn't it?
Absolutely. There's no chance Blackburn's getting that one.
You want to put some money on that?
I'll tell you what.
How many pounds?
I'll tell you what. Steve Keane. We say it every 2 weeks. Steve Keane needs a miracle, and maybe this is his Christmas present a little bit late. But so you're actually.
I think United will win. I think Rovers have got next to no chance, but you just never know.
Yeah, it's a funny old game, as they say. Arsenal QPR again, presumably home advantage.
Arsenal.
Absolutely, yeah.
Arsenal. Yeah. Okay. Who else have we got that's important? Chelsea, Aston Villa.
Must need win for Chelsea.
Absolutely, but Aston Villa are sort of disappointed a bit this season.
I'd put a 5 on a draw.
There you go. What do you reckon?
I'll put a 5 on that draw.
I'm not putting a monkey on it, whatever that means. Okay, and Swansea hosting Tottenham. A bit tricky.
I think Tottenham had a great run away from home 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We'd give our right arm to get an away win. I think we'll win, but I think it could be a struggle.
The Swansea have only lost 1 game at home this season so far.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I can see that being a tough journey. And on Sunday, the 1st of January, I think this is a real toughie for Manchester City, away at Sunderland. I mean, you said it yourself. They've got a new manager, Martin O'Neill. They're on a high.
It's a trap game.
It's a what game?
A trap.
No, you're going to have to explain what that's obviously some American.
It's American trap. So basically, when you're playing a bunch of games, and then you have that one team that's a little bit lower in the division,
got you.
and you're not, prepared for it, and you have some things that are going on with the team.
You know what? It's not. I mean, City's not just got one trap game. Then I mean, look at the performances over the last couple of weeks against middle to bottom ranking teams in the league.
Yeah.
So City's season is very questionable.
If City lose that game, I think the Premiership's wide open, and I think it will make the title challenge much more interesting. I think if Blackburn Rovers get a point at Manchester United and City draw or lose, then Tottenham, the door opens to Tottenham and even possibly Chelsea. I think Liverpool and Arsenal have got no chance. I think Newcastle have got no chance.
Goal news from Scotland. Celtic have gone 1-up at Rangers. If it stays like that, Celtic for the first time this season will go top. 2 points. They'll be 2 points clear. And obviously we'll be following that after this programme finishes in a couple of minutes. Let's just very quickly run through the rest of these fixtures. Into the new year, you just guys going to say win or defeat. Wolverhampton Wanderers against Chelsea. Chelsea to win?
Win.
Chelsea to win.
Okay, we've got that one taken care of. Tottenham against West Brom.
Tottenham to win, obviously.
Tottenham for
Yeah,
win.
yeah, we'll go with that. Manchester City against Liverpool. Now,
I'm going to have to go with the draw on that one.
I'll go for a draw on that as well.
yeah, and last year it was 3-0 at Main Road for City and then 3-0 at Anfield for Liverpool. And the last game, Newcastle United against Manchester United.
I'm going to go for a draw.
I'm going to go with United.
I think it's absolutely fascinating. I'm going to plead the fifth, as you Americans say, you trap teams. And just before we go, a little bit of Israeli news. First of all,
congratulations to Ellie Gutman.
okay, let's leave Ellie Gutman for a second, if that's all right with you. What I just want to look at first is the league, and there's a full programme of league games tonight. But what is amazing is that Hapoel Ironi Kiryat Shmona, that we've talked about a few times this season, are still top of the table. They are 4 points clear. And get this, Ashdod are in second place. Hapoel Tel Aviv are in third.
Where's
And
Beitar
hang a minute. Hapoel Bnei Sachnin, which is an Arab team from a tiny town in northern Israel, are fourth in the
Good for
league.
them.
And you've got to look to fifth for Bnei Yehuda. Maccabi Tel Aviv are in ninth place. Maccabi Haifa are in eighth place. And Beitar Yerushalayim, the Jerusalem team, are in 12th place. This is a season where, well, basically what you can do is rip up all of the form and say we have absolutely no idea what's going to be. But as you said, it's a mazel tov too.
It is a mazel tov to Ellie Gutman, who's the new manager for the Israel national team. He used to coach Hapoel Tel Aviv until last season, and it's a big mazel tov.
Absolutely. Just a little bit about Eli Gutman. He's brought 3 serious crowns, including a double to Hapoel. He's been in the footballing world for 40 years or so.
He's from Israel.
Absolutely, as opposed to Luis Fernandez, the French guy who never found his place here, and the fact that he was a French speaker was a problem. He'd never actually proved himself as a manager, and he was shown the door after the exit from Euro 2012. So let's have a look at what is likely to happen for Eli Gutman. Well, first of all, he's turned round to the fans and has said, and I think this is great, he said, fans, you have got to get behind us. You cannot be morons. You cannot be racists. You've got to create a good atmosphere when the Israeli national team plays. You have got to sing songs other than death to Israel's enemies, which is the basic chant. In terms of Avi Luzon, who is the head of the Israeli Football Association, he told a news conference yesterday that he'd promised Gutman the same conditions as the manager of the German national team, only without the players and without the salary. 53-year-old Hapoel Tel Aviv coach, he is going to be taking Israel, the former Hapoel coach, he's going to be taking Israel into Group F in World Cup qualifying with Portugal, Russia, Northern Ireland, Azerbaijan and Luxembourg. Talk about a group of death. Only one team gets through as of right. There are 9 groups, and the 8 teams that come in, the 8 best teams in second place, go into a knockout competition, home and away games. The chances of Israel making it to first place are zero. I mean, presumably it's Portugal.
Yeah,
Portugal in that group.
Ronaldo and Portugal.
Exactly. Is Israel capable of pipping Russia or Northern Ireland or Azerbaijan well, not Luxembourg, to second place.
I think they're competing with Portugal and Russia to get through.
Portugal's
the other
the main,
teams are.
yeah.
Okay, here's my prediction. They'll do exactly what they've done every other time. They'll be there or thereabouts till about 2 games to go. They'll commit suicide in their their home team. They'll take a defeat to Luxembourg or Azerbaijan or something like that, and that'll be the end of it. And talking of that's the end of it, it's been an amazing, fast 1 hour and a few minutes. I hope you've enjoyed it. Mike, do you want to do the thank yous and take us out of the program?
Well, I'd like to just thank you again, William, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure, and happy to have met you at the pub to watch the Chelsea Tottenham.
We'll take our guests from anywhere.
Anywhere we can find them.
Molly Bloom's in Tel Aviv. It's the
Molly
place to watch
Bloom's
football.
Place to watch it.
Absolutely.
And just want to wish all our guests and all the people listening a happy and a healthy new year.
Absolutely. A very happy new year. And remember, during the week, you can find us the Goal Facebook page, the Israel Radio Sports Radio Facebook page.
And we look forward to seeing Mark in...
Mark will be back in 2012.
It's about time.
Absolutely. And guys, enjoy a wonderful, wonderful weekend of British football because there's nowhere else that's playing in Europe right now. Take care, and we'll see you this time next week.
Take care.